This is the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
That's right. Welcome in another edition of the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, breaking down District 5 and 6 activities week in, week out in the state of Idaho. Brandon Baney joined by our East Idaho expert, Sean Kane. Sean, what's going on?
Hey, man, just enjoying this great spring weather and, basketball weekend last weekend, 4 or 5 different regions went in with Costco size shopping carts, and only 2 of those regions filled up those carts. So, you know what I'm saying? Northern Idaho and East Idaho, they dropped some money there at Costco.
Yeah,
filled up those carts with some hardware.
I think fans that talk about the state of Ada loved it because 3 teams from North Idaho won championships, 3 teams from East Idaho won championships, and District 3 got a big fat nada. So, yes, so much to talk about. You mentioned enjoying the spring, kind of tongue in cheek,
Yes,
because there is at least where I live, like a foot of snow still on the ground in East Idaho. And basically any spring activities that were slated to begin this week have been wiped out, right?
Yeah. Our first tennis match was supposed to be today. So guess what? It didn't happen.
Yeah, weird, huh?
Some of the players are like, is our match canceled? And I'm just like, you guys aren't in AP classes, are you? But yeah, it's been rough, like out at Century, there's like spots that have 3 foot of snow on it still. So we've been lucky to get some time in over at ISU at Reed Gym. That's where I was bright and early this morning, getting some in. But it's rough for everyone, baseball, softball, 4A. I can tell you 4A and 5A golf people don't have any complaints right now.
Yeah, they got theirs done in the fall, right?
Because you have those pictures that pop up on Facebook. If you're old like me, you didn't have Facebook, that show pictures of like March, and it was last March at like March 5th. It was sunny and nice. People were golfing, and now we're it's March 9th, and man, it's brutal. So, but the golfer, some of the golf coaches and golf people are like, they're so happy they have their season in, and but I know the smaller schools, that's their golf season now too. So I don't even know. So it's nice for us because it's one less activity to be finding a gym, a weight room, a wrestling room, a hallway, because right now the school's full with trying to get all kinds of anything we can kind of work out or whatever in.
Yeah, so along those lines, in terms of programming, usually what we like to do is as we transition from one sports season to another, we usually take a week off, kind of decompress for a minute. And I think it's appropriate. We'll do the show this week talking about mostly winter sports, and then there's just not going to be anything going on with the weather the way it is. There's not going to be anything to really talk about. So I feel like next week is a good week to take a week off. Yeah. We can come back in 2 weeks and hit the ground running with some spring sports coverage.
Yeah, there would. I mean, I could just come on and do jokes next week, but I don't think we'll have any results, scores or anything. But yeah, but all the teams are out there working hard and trying to get time in. Highland Tennis came in after us, and we're just sometimes coaches don't get along, but we see each other and it's just like, oh man. It's just brutal, but brutal for everyone. But we'll get there. We'll figure something out. I've always got something up my sleeve.
Yeah, you if you come on and do stand up next week, it's going to be tough. Only because this week I watched the Chris Rock stand up special on Netflix, and it was pretty good. And so the bar's been set pretty high. I don't know if you're.
Yeah, I'm always willing to take a shot, but no, those guys are great. I'm more of a Dave Chappelle guy, so.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, with that said, let's take a look back at what happened in boys basketball last week. It was state tournament time. The biggest story to me was at the 4A level, where you had Hillcrest and Pocatello again for the championship. You also had Blackfoot in there competing in the Final Four. So East Idaho at the 4A level did exceptionally well. And Pocatello, so I had the fortune to call the Pocatello Blackfoot semifinal game at the Idaho Center, and what an epic game that was. Goes to overtime, and Julian Bowie, with a hand in his face, just drills a 30-foot three from the right wing.
Yeah, I mean, I saw tons of clips of it and watched and listened, and man, just overall, all the games are super good. I was a little jealous. You guys, said I did such a bad job, I couldn't come. So, but no, I'm just joking. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was awesome to get a listen in IdahoSports.com and listen to all the games, because there was not very many bad games. You know what I mean? Like, I can't remember a tournament where like almost every game is a pretty good game. So yeah, it was great.
Every single tournament was outstanding in terms of game.
Maybe the best champion Saturday I've ever watched and tuned into. Maybe the one of the best. There wasn't a bad game. It could have sat there all day. I think I saw you sitting there all day, but
you know what? I had to go do some consolation games Saturday, so I didn't get there until like the tail end of the 3A championship. Okay. So I missed out on some epic championship games. Certainly.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately. But in the 4A, then you had Hillcrest and Pocatello meet up in the championship, second year in a row. And in the first half, Pocatello came out swinging. I mean, Thunder, were up big at the end of the first quarter. Hillcrest kind of answered in the second. It was a close game at halftime. It was basically a very tight game all the way throughout until the finishing stages of the fourth quarter, when Hillcrest finally pulled away. But the Knights are back-to-back 4A state champions. And like head coach Dave Austin always says, it's a great day to be a Knight.
So, yeah, he said that to the student section, right? And he's like, I got one more thing. It's a great day to be and they had a great student section. They followed them all over the state this year.
Yes.
But, the turning point of that game, I kind of thought, was Ike Sutton hitting that half-court shot, right? At the end of the half. Yeah, he hits a three-pointer. The momentum, I feel, like swung, but Pocatello came out and still was up pretty much most of the third quarter. And then it got to be Davis time, and some of the other guys chipped in, but Julian Bowie had quite the performance, 39 points in that game. It's just, if there would have been one other Thunder player that kind of stepped up, they might pull away with that, but Hillcrest was not going to be denied, just like that slam dunk at the end by Davis, which is a hot topic of conversation.
Yeah, let's talk about it, because Isaac Davis got teed up for dunking.
But what you got to remember, though, is right before that, Bowie misses 2 free throws.
Yes.
So if he makes those 3 throws, and then what you're going to talk about happens, it's a whole different game. But if you go back and watch that and go, oh man, if he makes those 3 throws,
yes, because Bowie missed free throws. The dunk by Davis then gives Hillcrest a 5-point lead, I believe, and that was kind of the finishing touches, right? Pocatello just didn't have enough time to come back from that. But basically, Pocatello had to extend the defense to try and force the turnover. That led to a wide open look for Davis. Two-handed slam, comes down, yells to the student section, "Come on, let's go!" And anyways, gets assessed a technical foul, and Pocatello ultimately, isn't able to complete the comeback. So no harm, no foul, except that you're right. It could have been a totally different scenario if Bowie had made those free throws. You're talking about a 1-possession game, possibly. Pocatello with the ball. And here's where I'm at with it. Isaac Davis got teed up in the first game at state for Hillcrest as well.
Twice in that game.
yeah. And then twice in the championship, right? Double tech. And I don't think he did anything outrageous. To be honest.
No, and I was in a Pocatello Century game, and a Pocatello player went up and dunked. Or he missed the dunk, actually, immediately calls a technical, and everyone is like, what? And then a quarter later, a Century player goes up rebound off the rebound dunk. And yeah, obviously he kind of hangs on the rim, because when you're jumping through the air and grabbing the rim, you got to catch your balance, right? And they call him a T, and everyone is just like, it was just like, I don't know, that rule is, I don't know if that was like an instruction that we got to call technicals, but I saw way worse hanging on the rim during the season than. Oh, you fizzed out on me a second.
Sorry, I froze up there for a second. Go ahead, continue your thought, Sean.
Oh no, I don't know if like just the couple games I saw that I thought they were, I'm not going to bag on refs. I'm very thankful for the refs and all that we have them and stuff, but there's got to be some sort of better discretion in those calls, because I mean, if you've never dunked before, I mean, how do you know? I don't know. I never saw one where someone was like super hanging, and Davis is a big boy, man. He's when he goes up to dunk, that the rim's going to move, but he can't just let go or you're going to fall and have a concussion. And I mean, I don't know. It's just interesting.
I think what happened is Davis got a tech in the first game, and I wasn't there for that game, so I can't speak to whether he earned it or not. I'm going to say he probably didn't. Like, it probably wasn't anything super outrageous. And then I think for the rest of the tournament, the tone had been set, because referees will talk to each other. And like, man, we had to tee up the Davis kid. And then I think subconsciously officials are thinking in their minds, okay, this is a guy who has been teed up before. And then the double tech was ridiculous. I don't think Davis should have earned any of those technical fouls, because think about how long of a leash coaches get in terms of, like, when a coach gets a tee, he or she has really earned it. Like, you get a lot of runway before they tee you up. Why shouldn't it be the same for the players?
I 100% agree. All the games I watched this year, there's a few times I can't believe coaches didn't get teed up, and I would say the refs did a good job. They let the game be the game and handle that situation appropriately. And I think the same thing could be said. The kid goes up for the dunk the first time, you go, hey, this is what we're looking for. This is your warning. And then you move on for that. But I don't know. Dunking you're not seeing a ton of them in high school, and if the kid can get up and do it, man, it's so much fun. So I just, it's a tough one for me. And and they say it's because they're hanging on the rim, but when you dunk, you can't just fall down. You can't just release. The rim, has, those springs in them. It bounces. So you would just really eat it if you let go, and that wouldn't be safe for anyone. And top priority should be safety. So.
Yeah, I didn't agree with any of it. I mean, ultimately, it won't matter too much. No. Hillcrest got the win, but I think that's kind of what happened. And now, unfortunately, that reputation is sticking with Isaac Davis, when none of that should really apply. But let's talk about on the other side, Julian Bowie. What a wild day on Saturday, where in the third place game, Blackfoot is playing Skyview. Broncos get a huge win. They take third place, and Javante King sets new records at the 4A state tournament for most points in a tournament with 85, most field goals in a tournament with 33, and then the highest point per game average, which ended up being like 28 something, right? And so Javante King is taking pictures with everybody after the game, and they're celebrating this accomplishment, and what a cool deal. And literally the ink hadn't even dried on the record books, and like 4 hours later in the 4A championship, Julian Bowie comes through and breaks two of those records that Javante King had set earlier in the day. Bowie finishes the tournament with 89 total points. That's the new record. Highest point per game average as well, 29 something,
29.7 or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but King still has the record for most field goals.
Okay.
So both Javante King and Julian Bowie will be in the record book next year. But I've never seen that, where the scoring record gets broken twice in one day.
And it's kind of interesting that his total was 89. I believe that was the same as Lotta from Minico. Yeah. Her point total was 89 as well in the 4A girls. So yeah, usually maybe there's like one thing that could happen, right? But it was like back to back, just hours later. So pretty cool. A lot of scoring going on in 4A. A lot of star power, you'd say that, the 4A boys had a lot of stars kind of shining bright there up in Boise.
Yes, for sure. If we look at the other teams from East Idaho that won championships, Sugar-Salem at the 3A level, Bear Lake at the 2A level, it's kind of the opposite. You know, there's not really one star on either of those teams that you can point to and go, yep, that's the guy. It's a true team effort. And so to me, the more impressive win was Bear Lake, because coming in, you know, everybody, Melba. And I'll admit, I was guilty of this as well. And I think this year has really taught me that going into state, a team can be undefeated, can be the number 1 seed, can have all this acclaim. And yet, because Idaho is so separated geography-wise, who's to say that Bear Lake's 3-loss record in East Idaho wasn't as good as Melba's undefeated record playing in the Treasure Valley, right? Who's to say that Bear Lake wasn't truly the best team coming in? And that's why state is so fun, because Bear Lake came in and really, you know, beat Melba, not convincingly, but I mean, they won by, 8 or 9 points. And so I think I've learned, and everybody else should learn too, that don't just assume, don't just rubber stamp that, oh yeah, this team undefeated, number 1 seed. The regions can be different. A 500 team in East Idaho, maybe East Idaho was really good this year, and their overall record reflects how tough the league was. I think another good point of that would be at the 5A level, where Madison played Lake City in the semifinals and gave Lake City all they could handle. And coming in, Madison was an afterthought. East Idaho, whatever. Lake City's his dominant team. And so anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Bear Lake, I'd been big on Bear Lake all year. I thought they had, just the right chemistry, and you kind of saw this in some of the other championships, right? You saw the football team basically comes to play basketball, the same group of guys, and sometimes they start off a little slow, but once the season got going, Bear Lake, they were battle tested. I think that's sometimes if undefeated doesn't mean you're battle tested. Bear Lake was battle tested. They played some good teams. They had some losses. They got it together when it was right, and well-coached team by Bear Lake, and they were just, I picked them. Everyone thought I was crazy, but I thought they had a shot at Melba, and really they pretty much controlled that game. So I thought it would be more or less Bear Lake would find kind of a way to win, but they're pretty much, dominated that game throughout.
So congratulations to the Bear Lake Bears for winning the state title once again. And then, similarly in the 3A championship, Sugar-Salem playing Bonners Ferry, the 1 seed. I mean, this came down to basically in the 4th, Bonners Ferry had to foul a bunch to try and climb back in. Sugar was just too good from the free throw line. And despite Bonners Ferry giving it their best effort, the Diggers with strong defense and just solid overall team play, Christian Gordon, Coy Sanderson, you could go on and on listing all of the guys for Sugar-Salem, and they all took turns leading the team at different times throughout this championship mode. But, I saw a funny post on social media. Basically, they had the banner ceremony where they hung the boys basketball championship banner. And by the way, Sugar won the cheerleading title as well. Congrats to the Sugar cheerleaders. But somebody joked like, hey, we're going to have to get a bigger gym with all these banners we keep hanging up in here. And it's just like, man, what an accomplishment for Sugar-Salem, and how exciting it is that they are so good at everything. And at the same time, is it bad that I'm kind of annoyed that, can't they ever let somebody else win something?
You could be annoyed, but I could tell you Teton is probably the most annoyed, right? Same conference. Yeah. They're a great team. Teton goes somewhere else in that bracket. They could be there too. You know what I mean? So Teton's definitely annoyed. But yeah, everyone loves the heel, right? And right now in 3A sports, Snake River's that heel, and I know just being at the top is hard. So congrats to all their coaches and people. You can go and win, but maintaining it and doing it over and over again is something that takes commitment, time, community support. And, I don't know, Snake River is a really nice community. They support those athletes. And then like you said, Madison, there's some of those same kids are in that area too. So between Madison and Sugar-Salem, they've got just, I don't know what they got, steroids in the milk or what, but they've got good athletes.
I think, people ask me all the time, why is Sugar so good and everything? What makes them so good? I think it's 2 things. I think one is their strength training. Those athletes hit the weight room and they lift.
All of them. All sports. Yep. They got a new facility and all that. And they have a guy who I can't remember his name, but I think he was professional,
college.
college strength. He's like just diamond in the rough up in Sugar-Salem, right?
Yeah.
And he's got him on a program that's working, and that helps. And and obviously lifting's great, but the thing is that what you get from those workouts is like that sense of team, joking around,
Right.
and that takes stress away when you're in those high press moments and it's your buddy and your teammate, and if I do this, he's going to be there because we've done it 1,000 times. That takes the stress away. All those reps together really bring you together.
Yes. Dan Benyon is the guy you're
Yeah.
thinking of, the strength coach. And so that's number one. Number two is they all play multiple sports. I mean, there's a couple of exceptions, but for the most part, the kids that are playing football, play basketball, run track, play baseball, whatever, girls, volleyball, cross country, they play basketball, they wrestle. And so it is there's no specialization. It's all, hey, we're all going to contribute to the team. Again, the team is above anything else individually because they get it. I see so often where athletes, parents think, oh, I've got to be at this school where I can be the star and I can get my shots and get my numbers, and that's how I'll get noticed by coaches. And it's like it's the opposite. If your team is winning a lot and getting a lot of attention that way, you're gonna get noticed.
Absolutely.
And all of the teammates at Sugar-Salem lift each other up, and they all get their opportunities in terms of looks at the next level and stuff. So it really is team over eye at Sugar as well. And those are, to me, from an outsider's perspective, those are the big things Sugar-Salem has going for it.
Yeah, I would agree. And like work ethic, I've never went to a Sugar-Salem sporting event and see someone like something bad happens and like put their head down, right? There's a lot of great coaches that talk about that when they go and watch. They want to see you on the night you're not even playing. What are you doing on the bench? And their teams are always cheering each other on. They don't have their head down. Maybe it's a blowout for the Sugar-Salem football team, but they're still like into it, like it's close. And those are what things coaches look for, and like at the next level. And that's something they've grinded into their culture. That's, I think, what's really paid off as well.
Yeah. So congratulations to Sugar-Salem. More championship banners to hang up in the rafters.
Darn it.
I know, right? Darn it. We had other teams from East Idaho go over and compete pretty well. Madison finished fourth. Just ran out of steam at the end there at the 5A tournament. But I was very impressed with Nash Humphreys, sophomore point guard. He's not afraid to let it fly. And, he took a couple of like 35-foot shots, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no way and it would go in. So it was just like awesome to see him shoot and compete really well. We talked about 4A and 3A Teton.
Highland made it to the tournament in the first time since 2006. So I thought that was, we haven't been able to talk, but that was pretty great moment for Highland. That's a long time to not be there, a pretty predominant program in sports, and to make it there. Unfortunately, they ran into the juggernaut of Lake City and just didn't have a great game. But that's a step in the right direction, right? You get there now, these kids know. So Highland, I wanted to give them a little credit there too.
Yes, Highland competed very well, despite what the score would tell you. The problem with Highland, and I was talking to Coach Stuckey about this before the tournament. He said, we just have to stick true to what we are. We can't abandon our identity at this point, and we're a team that works from the inside out. And the only problem with that is that Blake Buchanan at 6'11" is inside for Lake City, which makes it tough. But yes, you're right. Highland getting back to state for the first time since 2016. Incredible accomplishment for the Rams. Super exciting. We had at the 4A level, the three teams get there and do well. 3A, Teton, Sugar, both went, and Snake River also played pretty well at state. 2A, you had Ryrie there, West Side, they both competed well. And then at the 1As, Grace played in the semifinals against Lakeside, the eventual champions. Now it'll be a fun exercise, and Grace fans will hate, like Grace fans didn't hate me enough already. If Grace gets to that championship against Lapway, I think Lapway probably wins the championship. I just don't think Grace was the kind of team that was built to outshoot Lapway like Lakeside did in that championship game. But
which that game was maybe one of the best games in history, man. That was a nutso game. But yeah, Grace played really well. I mean, they're so close to beating Lakeside. Was it 2 points? Then they beat Castleford for third place, and yeah, I was big on Grace too. I thought they could maybe pull it out and get there, but like you talked about just a little bit ago, just because you're undefeated doesn't mean you win. Everyone's like, it's Lapway's going to win this. This is why no one wants to watch this bracket, but it ended up being the most exciting championship game for sure in the 1A.
Yeah, and I saw some ridiculous comments on social media from some Castleford fans. One guy got on and he was like, I wasn't too impressed with Grace, even though they beat us in the third place game. We were spent from, holding Lapway to their season low in points, and that's why we couldn't. And like a couple Grace fans hopped in, and I kind of agreed with them, and they're like, yeah, we also gave our best effort against Lakeside, the eventual champion, and we still found a way to win the third. Like, yeah. I don't know.
That's grasping at straws, and as well as I do, is it's those third place and consolation games are all about whether the players are willing to kind of erase what's happened and keep playing and competing. So I usually I think the team that wins third place is the team that's like, yeah, whatever, we didn't get it, we're not going to make excuses, but we're still going to go out and play. And same kind of with that consolation as well.
Yeah, it was really something to behold there for Grace. And then at the 1A D2, this was a game I was actually on the call for, Sean. The 1A D2 third place game. It was Rockland and Water Springs.
Yeah.
Old friends meeting up at Caldwell High School. Water Springs hung tough for really 3 quarters and hit some incredible outside baskets. But overall, Rockland's length and athleticism inside proved to be too much. But finally getting to watch Water Springs with my own eyes this year, they were a fun team to watch. Evan Bindenagel did a great job in his first year as head coach there. And of course, congrats to Rockland as well for taking the third place trophy. So
on the brackets, they took both of them. They took the consolation and the and third place.
Oh no, on our brackets on IdahoSports.com. Uh-oh.
Man, Rockford had to have 2 hands, or Rockland had to have 2 trophies, I guess.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. That's I'm going to throw the boss under the bus here. That's a Paul Kingsbury.
But I tell you what, the Rockland Kendrick semifinal, that was that was a really good game, man. I was impressed with that, and Kendrick's so young, man. That doesn't look great for the rest of those guys, but man, nice job by Kendrick. But Rockland, they were right there. I would have loved to see Rockland Richfield, round 2, but congrats to those teams.
Yeah, and that league will look a little different next year. Rockland brings back Teague Matthews, but they lose Brigham Perman and Gavin Perman and Brandon Neal, and at the same time, Water Springs kind of loses their main, Drew Plocker and Daniel Canfield. And so both of these teams are going to look a little different next year. Now, I still think because of the overall programs, and both of them had younger guys that came in off the bench, you probably still give the nod to them. And especially because Grace Lutheran, kind of the third team in the mix,
they're going to lose a lot.
Yeah, they lost a lot to graduation. And so I don't know, this league might be a little more open next year. Even a team like, North Gem that, is small in numbers, but brings back a lot of their guys. Like, I don't know. This league will be interesting to watch next year for sure.
I agree. Yeah.
So that is a wrap on the winter sports season and high school boys basketball. And now as we get ready for spring, Sean, as we said, we'll kind of take a week off and hopefully some of this snow starts to melt and we can actually have some stuff to talk about. But
yeah,
we are going to be rolling out our spring sports previews here towards the end of the month on IdahoSports.com, baseball, softball. Marlo Herford is writing a great track and field preview for us. And Sean, I didn't ask you this off camera, so I'll ask you on you wrote a great tennis preview for us last year. Are you down to do that again?
Yeah, I'll do that. I mean, I'm sure everyone would love to talk to me now that they can't play, but they got extra time to share a little more. But yeah, it'll be, tennis is wild. I mean, tennis is a sport people don't think about it as much as how it can be drastically a lot of changeover. I mean, like boys doubles for 4A, all those guys don't come back, so that's wide open. And 5A will be interesting. Boise's going to be tough again. Some of those girls come back. 5A boys is really kind of, it'll be interesting to see. And then just, to give you a little preview, there's a freshman from Highland High School who could walk away with a state championship. So keep a little reminder on that I said it here. But yeah, he's a freshman. I don't know if he's made the team or not or anything. We haven't, I don't want to speculate. Right. I don't want to throw anything out, but he'll be really good, and it'll be interesting to see what happens to him at state. But I mean, for us in East Idaho, it's always hard because when we were up there for girls, people were playing tennis at Timberline High School. Remember that? Yes. And I was not happy about it. So if we can go up and compete when they have a lot more time than us, I'm always happy with that. But we'll find a way. We've got just some phenomenal coaches as far as spring sports in East Idaho, from baseball to softball. It's gonna be pretty exciting. I'm pretty excited to kind of see baseball get underway too. It should be fun.
Yes, baseball, softball, track, tennis, all those good, spring, and golf for
the 3A. Smallers, yeah.
Yep, as well. So, all right. Well, that'll do it for the winter sports season here. We'll be off next week. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks for another edition of the East Idaho Prepcast. For Sean Kane, I'm Brandon Baney. Thanks for tuning in on IdahoSports.com.